Novak Djokovic confronts a fan on the practice court and says, "I will find you. Trust me, I will come find you." Danny Medvedev, the BS Russian, gives the middle finger to the U.S. Open crowd. And now we got Nick Kyrgios with Gamergate. Bro, Call of Duty's ruined me. Can't see the ball, mate. And we thought Roger Federer saying a swear word was freaking nuts. It gets a lot crazier at this year's U.S. Open, the Angry Open. Everyone a little angry. And you better not be a whistleblower, because Nick Kyrgios will blow the whistle on you. We've got a few little things like that on today's show. Welcome to the Coffee Break Tennis Podcast. If you are one of the people who hate the podcast and want to see video, you want to see me doing the show, we'll be right at you tomorrow. Federer is, hold up, preferential treatment alert. Roger Federer scheduled first on tomorrow on Arthur Ashe. So that's noon East Coast time tomorrow. We will start putting a video together right after that match concludes. So hopefully no more than an hour or two after the Federer match is over, we'll have a nice video for you. And for the Patron Saints podcast, Patron Saints, we'll do a podcast at night tomorrow after the Djokovic and Wawrinka match. I want to talk about Kyrgios really bad in his match. Let's talk about some of the matches today. But first, let's take a look at this draw, because our Sweet 16 is shaping up quite nicely. Tomorrow night, Djokovic and Wawrinka. Medvedev and this Kepfer guy who took out Riley Opelka, took out Basilashvili. I didn't see the Basilashvili match, but I saw a lot of the match with Riley Opelka. Who else we got? Federer and Goffin, of course. That's first up tomorrow. And then the Demon, Alex de Minaur, the only Australian left. And that's a real shame because Kyrgios, I'm not going to say he should have won because Rublev played great, but Kyrgios, you hit 30 aces, you shouldn't lose in 3 sets, at least. You're up 4-0 in a second set tiebreak. You shouldn't lose that tiebreak when you have Nick Kyrgios' serve. It's insane. I mean, he basically kind of tanked that tiebreak, up 4-0. I don't want to say he totally tanked, but Nick Kyrgios definitely lost the focus, and it really looked like he stopped caring. I mean, at one point, he said during the match, "I don't even want to be here. I just want to go home." And stuff like that, I like so much about Nick Kyrgios. I love his game. His serve, obviously, is amazing. I love his hands. I love some of the stuff he does. Some of the crazy shots that he does kind of reminds me of Monfils in some way, but a whole new thing, a whole new level. He takes that to the showmanship of the crazy shots you see from a Monfils. And, you really feel like Kyrgios has what it takes to win one of these majors with the game. And then you see stuff like today, and it's just heartbreaking. So, de Minaur, only Australian left now. If Dimitrov gets through de Minaur, or it doesn't matter. If Federer comes through David Goffin, the quarterfinal to get to a semifinal to face could be Medvedev, maybe. Could be Djokovic, is who everyone expected. Who knows? Maybe it could be Stan the Man. Dimitrov or de Minaur standing in the way. No disrespect to those two, but come on. If you're a Federer fan, what more can you ask for in a quarterfinal at the U.S. Open? And it's been quite some time since Federer's been in a semifinal at the U.S. Open. So, yeah, let's look at the bottom half of the draw. Of course, Rublev gets through Kyrgios. He'll get Matteo Berrettini up next, who is looking, about as good as he did when he won some tournaments on grass not too long ago. Don't forget how that wrapped up for him, though, at Wimbledon, where he fell on his face after Federer knifed a second serve back. I think it was a return from Federer. Sliced it real deep, and Berrettini tries to run out of the way. He tries to run around his backhand. And I watched a lot of his match today, and that's one of the things you will see. The backhand, I think Rublev wins that match, even though the Berrettini serve, it's a great serve, but hey, Rublev was able to hang around with Kyrgios' serve. Berrettini's going to be a little more focused, obviously, than Nick Kyrgios, but that two-hand backhand is kind of a weakness. It's just not a very solid shot. Berrettini will give you a lot on it. He's got a pretty good slice, but I think Rublev's so solid off of both wings, and Rublev serving pretty well. So I see Rublev coming through there. Really a big opportunity missed for Nick Kyrgios. I mean, this was his semifinal, it kind of makes you feel like, whether you like him or don't, if Nick Kyrgios can't come through this draw, I mean, this was about as good as it gets. Don't get me wrong, Rublev was a tough opponent. But still, I mean, Kyrgios came out and was playing pretty well. 4-0, second set tiebreak. Jeez. You know, you feel like Kyrgios should have been able to find a way to win that match, or at least make it more competitive than 3 sets. And then Berrettini, Monfils, or Pablo Andujar to get to a semifinal. It's such an opportunity lost that it's kind of stunning. It's kind of stunning and makes you wonder, is Nick Kyrgios ever going to be able to do this? What kind of draw, how favorable does the draw need to be for Nick Kyrgios to get through? And you know how Kyrgios is. Maybe he needs a bigger name. Everyone knew Rublev was hot. Rublev took down Thiem on clay. He took down Federer in Cincinnati just a couple weeks ago. Like how big of a name do they have to be? I guess, you know, Rublev's not the most famous tennis player, but he's good. Anyways, what else we got? Sasha Zverev gets through a match that shouldn't have been that tough. It's 4 sets, but it's 3 tiebreakers. Kind of like the Nishikori disease. You know, maybe Zverev gets through Schwarty D. It's going to be a little guy versus a big guy there. Schwarty D comes through straight sets over Tennis Sandgren, 6-4, 6-1, 6-3. I think if little Diego plays well, he takes down Sasha. But I could see Sasha coming through. And then Sasha in the quarterfinals, he's got to be pretty worn down. Nadal will just destroy him. I watched pretty much every match today. It was a great day of tennis. Should we get into let's just go through the draw and talk about what I think is going to happen. And then we'll go through these stories, and then everyone can go to sleep. Anyways, Marin Cilic. Let me take a sip of my beverage right quick. Marin Cilic is not going to beat Rafa Nadal. And a quick stat alert. I don't want to do a lot of editing on this tonight, so I'm not going to put it on the screen. Take my word for it. Nadal is putting up the best win on first serve numbers averaged for all the matches so far than anyone else in the tournament, and on second serve. I mean, Nadal is serving well. Nadal is attacking after his serve goes in very well. He's constructing points well. Nadal's doing a lot of stuff very well. It kind of reminds me of the Australian Open. He's playing just like his coach said, Francisco Roig, one of his many coaches. Nadal has figured out how to play on faster courts. He's standing in closer to the baseline. He's attacking more. It seems like, just looking at those numbers, that makes you think this could be Rafa's tournament to win. So a little bit of an alert there for anyone who's not rooting for Rafa. And if you're a Rafa fan, like, this is feel very good, and especially the way the draw has shaped up. You know, Rafa got, if you worry about Rafa, the problem with him on hard courts recently has been, you know, you think about he had to pull out against Marin Cilic, was it? Or did Cilic beat him? Or did Rafa not finish the match in 2018 Australian Open? Last year, 2018 U.S. Open, Rafa doesn't get to finish against Del Potro after the very long, brutal quarterfinal with Dominic Thiem. So now he gets a walkover for his third round here. Chung didn't play terrible or anything. You know, Chung had his moments, but Nadal was very good today. 6-3, 6-4, 6-2. Marin Cilic had a pretty brutal match with John Isner. Marin Cilic already had a 4-set match before that with a 7-5 in there, and a tiebreak and a 7-5 today. So 4-set with a 7-5, 2 sevens in your 4 sets. It's a tough match. And Isner, I feel like, actually had a chance against Nadal. You know, Isner's serve was going to be tough for Nadal to crack. And the way Isner is playing on return, you know, he goes so big, and he earned himself. He had like 14, 15 breakpoint chances. And I want to say Isner only broke one time in the second set, if I remember correctly. And that was it, out of like 14 chances. Whereas Cilic, I think he only broke 2 times in the match. That was it. Pretty amazing. Once in the first, once in the last. And then kind of like, well, not like the Kyrgios tiebreak, but third set tiebreaker, Isner had the lead. He had a couple set points, and he smashed his racket after that because he double faults Isner when it finally goes. Marin Cilic has a set point now. It was on serve in the tiebreak. Isner just needed to come up with one of his big serves to stay alive there, and he double faults. And I don't blame him for smashing the racket at all. How frustrating that must have been, especially because it felt like Isner was playing better than Cilic. There were games, very frustrating, where Isner really should have broke. There was a game where Cilic double faulted 4 times. I want to say it must have been the 4th set because it was a chance for Isner to get back after he had been broken earlier in the set. And that was just pretty tough to swallow as well for Isner and Isner fans. So my main point there was Isner created a lot of opportunities from going very big, very aggressive on the Cilic serve, and I think he would have been able to possibly get a break here and there against Nadal. He would have had looks at tiebreakers against Nadal. He's got a big enough, good enough serve, just like Kyrgios does as well. And Isner's going to do a better job focusing on holding serve than Kyrgios, that Nadal might actually not be able to get into those games. But it's not going to be a thing now because Marin Cilic comes through. And Marin Cilic, a lot of double faults, a lot of mental collapses. I mean, credit Cilic for being pretty tough and hanging in there. And I'll give him a chance against Nadal, but not too much of a chance. Nadal is just playing very well. Schwarty D, Sasha Zverev, I give them no chance. I will say for Sasha that he had some unbelievable first serving. And, the second serve wasn't, he didn't double fault nearly as much as we've seen him in other matches this year. And he seemed to have a better idea of what he was trying to do with it. So credit to Sasha Zverev. I think he's playing better, but it's not going to be enough. Nadal will come through there. I wouldn't be surprised to see him lose to Schwarty D, Diego Schwartzman. Monfils, I hope he comes through because this is an opportunity for him. This is tough to call. I'm not going to say Pablo Andujar comes through. But Monfils, I could see him coming through, even though it was a very long match with Shapo. Credit to Shapo playing better than he has earlier in the year as well. Maybe the best run we've seen from Shapo since Miami. Berrettini, he's got a shot against Rublev. I could see him coming through to this semifinal if he can get past Rublev. But this is really the biggest opportunity, it feels like, for Monfils or Rublev, who, don't forget, he got to a quarterfinal only, 2017? It was kind of funny because that was the year everyone was talking about Shapo. And then this guy who's the same age as Shapo, remember Shapo had beat Nadal in Canada at the Canadian Masters hardcourt before Cincinnati. And so there was all this buzz about Shapo. And then Rublev has a great run at the U.S. Open, the quarterfinals, and not a lot of people talking about him. And then he's got all these injuries and all these issues, and now he's back with a vengeance. So I would not be surprised to see him come through to the semifinal. Because Monfils, he's a lovable guy and all, but he's had his mental letdowns as well over the years and all the injury problems and everything. So we're never shocked to see Monfils disappoint. But this feels like a real chance for Monfils, too. Is he going to beat Rafa? I don't think so. Could Rublev beat Rafa? Maybe. Berrettini? Maybe, but no. More likely we see Berrettini get embarrassed like he was against Federer. We see Nadal embarrass him. So it looks very good for Rafa Nadal to come through here. Quick look at the top half. Djokovic. Let's read this story about Djokovic. And, take a listen because it all happened tonight. Nick Kyrgios stuff. This is just too funny. Nick Kyrgios' stormy U.S. Open has ended with a relatively mild insult to a line judge as a whistleblower and a beating at the hands of Andrei Rublev. In the first set, a lines person reported some bad Kyrgios language to the chair umpire. She asked him about it during the changeover, and he looked back to the lines person and he said, "What'd I say, whistleblower?" He also battled an issue with his eyes throughout, telling his box he couldn't see because of the lights. "It's gaming, bro. Like, I can't see a thing, bro. Call of Duty's like, ruined me, mate. Can't see." Kyrgios recently slapped with a fine. Blah, 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 blah. You get the drill. So, that was pretty funny. Nick Kyrgios calling that guy a whistleblower. And not so bad. Nothing compared to what we saw with Medvedev. So let's take a listen to this really quick. Medvedev was locked in a tense first-set battle in the third-round match at U.S. Open against Felipe Lopez. The Russian wasn't in a happy mood after initially snapping at a ball person, and this was like a ball man, not a ball kid. This was, as Federer said, this was like a grown man, before delivering a subtle message to the fans in attendance. So, if you haven't heard of this yet, I guess I should go through it then. Medvedev gets the unsportsmanlike conduct violation, and then he puts his middle finger against his forehead, and some people in the crowd see it. And then they put it on the Jumbotron for some reason. Then everyone in the crowd sees it. And then it gets nuts in there. They're booing him. And then he's losing, And then he starts playing great. And then he ends up winning the match. And everyone's booing him. There was even some people in the crowd putting the middle finger up back to Medvedev. And Medvedev, in his on-court speech, he doubles down. He says, when you go home and you fall asleep, you go to sleep tonight, just remember one thing, people in the crowd. He didn't say that, but that's who he's addressing. I won because of you. If you keep booing me, maybe I'll have enough energy. I'm paraphrasing now, but it was something pretty close to this. If you keep booing me, maybe I'll have enough energy to win 5 more matches. As in, he's going to win the whole tournament. So, yeah. And he seemed to embrace it. Medvedev kind of almost enjoyed it. It was a wild match. So, Kyrgios kind of tame compared to some of that stuff. Middle finger to the crowd. And then Djokovic, I don't blame Djokovic so much. I'm sure that guy said something real D-word. I'm sure that guy was being a total ding-dong and deserved Djokovic to come up there and threaten him a little bit. Djokovic shouldn't have done it. But clearly, Djokovic very on edge. Didn't want to talk about his left shoulder. On edge because of this left shoulder flaring up right now and at such an important time for the big three, the 4 majors, the big 3. This is their time. So I understand a little bit there. Anyways, all right, so that's the draw. That's the latest news. Is there anything else to the Djokovic story to talk about? Not really. I mean, it's funny. They asked him later, Djokovic, you said to the man on the practice court, I'll come find you. Trust me, I'll come find you. What are you going to do after you find him? Setting Djokovic up to say, I'm going to beat the hell out of him. But that's not what Djokovic said. Djokovic said, well, of course, I was going to buy him a drink. A quick look. Did we go over the stats? I think we went over the stats of the Kyrgios Rublev match. Let's look at the schedule ahead tomorrow, and then we'll get out of here. I'm tired. A lot of tennis today, and I don't like doing the videos this late because I'm just out of energy. But the podcast is a little easier to manage, and we hit 20 minutes, so let's wrap this thing up already. Federer plays Goffin tomorrow, obviously. Serena Williams and Petra Marčić on after that. Svitolina and Madison Keys to start the night session. Djokovic Wawrinka late, so we'll have a Patron Saint podcast. Go to patreon.com/coffeebreaktennis. If you're not a patron saint and you would like to be one, you get access to all of our bonus shows and podcasts when you are a patron saint. Also, you help keep this show going and growing. Plus, another reason to go over there is I'm going to start putting the official schedule ahead of time. When I know what I'm planning on doing, I will put the schedule up there and give you an idea of when the next shows will be. So it'll be right there in the posting area, front and center on that page. Excuse me. Djokovic, Wawrinka, so that's late tomorrow night. We'll do a podcast. On the other courts, the Ash Barty party's going. Medvedev and Koepfer play last after an 11 a.m. start on Louis Armstrong. So that's gonna be a minute. That could be a 4 p.m. start, maybe something like that. Who knows? Grandstand. Expect to see Grigor Dimitrov and Alex de Minaur, the Demon, around 12:30, 1 p.m. Well into the Roger Federer match. So I'll probably be keeping my eye on that. And if it looks like someone's up 2 sets of love, we'll just roll. Maybe we'll watch that a little before we make our show tomorrow. Mostly talking about the Federer match, but of course we'd like to know who Federer plays next. And I'll have my eye on both of those matches simultaneously to give you a little bit of a scouting report tomorrow of what to expect for Roger's next opponent, assuming he wins. Last thing I say, hit the music. David Goffin, he's looked good. I saw some comments somewhere. And sorry, I wanted to do some comments on this podcast, but I'm just, I want to get to bed and be fresh for the Federer match tomorrow. So I'm not going to go through anything extra that I have to edit into the video tonight. But I saw some comments saying that David Goffin has been serving better. And that is one thing I've noticed this year. It seems like Goffin's been trying to work on that serve as one more, obviously when you're like David Goffin, you're limited in some ways because of your size. You're not going to be as powerful as other players. But David Goffin is so good that if he could just get a little better at spot serving, get a little more pop on his serve somehow, it could be a game changer and maybe give him a chance to win one of these things or get to a final or something like that. So that is a factor. Goffin is playing very consistent. He's got the speed. He's going to make Federer play, and he's got the urge, the desire to step in and attack, and the belief in oneself to where he is a threat if Federer doesn't come out and play great. If Federer plays great, and I think he will, he wins tomorrow. We'll be back to talk about it after it happens. See ya!